Goodness gracious, am I seeing this right? I'm not talking about a cartoon today. Guys, call the cops. I've clearly been replaced. If I ever say no to cartoons, you know what's happened. So yeah, I'm back with another video. For once, not about a cartoon. Probably pretty hard to believe. And I get it, you guys probably need more time. So everyone, turn to the person to your right and I guess discuss how it makes you feel. So, now that you've all had a breather, today I'm going to be discussing Chucky. This is like one of the only live action shows I watch, so yippee. I watch heaps of live action movies, so don't think I'm like chronically a weirdo. Today I aim to review season 3 of Chucky, but I am going to discuss the 2 previous seasons to give a little recap and say how they made me feel. A few things from the previous seasons do end up mattering, so it does help in giving a little context. Is Chucky even popular anymore? Do you guys know who I'm talking about? The killer doll with 3 movies called Child's Play, the 3rd being considered too repetitive, so then they kind of switched up the vibe for the 4th movie, Bride of Chucky, considered a bit campy but overall still a banger movie, introduces one of the most popular characters of the series, although I don't think she holds that reputation anymore. Then you have Seed of Chucky, definitely the most hated film in the franchise, for good reason, but it is kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. It just has a few too many funny scenes. Overall, the movie does a lot of horrible stuff, and I agree that it's awful. I just have bad taste, I guess. Then it was announced Chucky was being rebooted, but it ended up being a soft reboot, and we ended up with Curse of Chucky, which is argued to be one of the best films of the series. It's either that or Child's Play 2. Child's Play 2 definitely having a lot more fans, but I feel like both sides are very vocal. My favourite switches every week, so don't bother asking me. Then you land on the last film of the series so far, a pretty divisive one, mainly because the whole premise revolves around a joke from the Voodoo for Dummies book/website. I feel like overall a lot of people like Cult, but, you know, there's no denying the missed potential, and a big problem with the series also being the missed potential. And I guess if you want in-depth reviews on any of the movies, let me know. Cult is the one I could probably say the most on, but with that out of the way, let's get started. So, I'll try to keep it brief, but season 1, it's everyone's favourite season, set in Hackensack. Also being Charles Lee Ray's hometown, the season focuses on Chucky showing up at a yard sale and trying to convince a child to kill, so he can do a spell where he can splinter his soul into 72 dolls. That being all at once, he can just splinter his soul anyway. I think he just doesn't want to do the chant 72 times. There has to be some other advantage than just not doing the chant 72 times. I've seen people saying it gives him more control because each time he splinters his soul, he loses a bit of himself, but that doesn't really make sense because that's never really shown to happen. Nor has there really ever been an interview that confirms it that I know of, because I am pretty late to the franchise. I do get the feeling that's why he wanted Nika to kill so badly in Cult though, because I feel like maybe her injury makes her innocent / a child somehow. And in Cult, he had just learnt that spell. I mean, it was the whole premise of the movie. Anyway, while Chucky's trying to get a kid to kill for him, we start to see glimpses into his past, like him killing his mother, him meeting Eddie Caputo, him meeting Tiffany. Some of these later flashbacks do throw a lot at us, and it does muddy up the story that we already have, but theoretically it can still work. It just means a lot happened to Chucky the night he died. And it's nothing too earth-shattering yet, because season 2 does have a few things that muddy it up more. Overall, season 1 probably has the freakiest vibe. It never really gets scary, but it often feels like something's gonna jump out at you. Compared to the next 2 seasons though, the kills are really lacking. Like, the other seasons don't feel as scary, but they dial up the gore, and they have some pretty good practical effects. But yeah, season 1, probably best vibes, but a bit boring with its kills. It's probably also the time the trio felt like they were at their best. They do play into the found family trope pretty fast, especially with Lexi. I find it a bit hard to believe she'd be so quick to switch like that. She's full telling Jake, "I can't believe you left the family you chose," which it's a bit weird considering like a few episodes ago she completely despised him. And then she was mad that he gave her Chucky knowing what he was and that he planned to kill her. I get being in her position, you'd probably change your tune once you understood completely what was going on, but like, I don't know if I'd very quickly switch to this guy I hate is now my family, especially with how fast she is to cut herself off from her other supportive people like her family and her friends. Like, I understand you've got to kill this doll, but you're isolating yourself from your boyfriend. And the one time she does try to tell him, it doesn't feel like she's really treating him like a person. She just quickly blurts it out, and he's like, don't make up stuff like that. It does also take like 5 episodes to pick back up on the Nika and Tiffany cliffhanger from Cult. Kind of annoying, but I feel like that was something we could have waited to check in on, because you know there's other Chuckies out there. It's not like seeing the one that's in a human is going to be that important. On the other hand, one thing that does annoy me is it takes 6 episodes to follow up on the Cult of Chucky post-credit scene. That being Kyle's return and the destruction of the Chucky head. She manages to break Andy out of the asylum off screen, and the post-credit scene just gets a quick throwaway line to show they acknowledged it. I guess it's better than if Kyle just randomly broke Andy out of the asylum and, you know, there was no post-credit scene, but I'd still prefer something like a post-credit scene to get a proper follow-up on. Like the Curse of Chucky post-credit scene, Andy shot off Chucky's head, and that was like half of the movie, not 5 minutes in a few episodes. Although I guess in a movie you can't really do episodes, but you know what I mean, it got focus. Andy and Kyle feel underutilized as a whole in season 1. They kind of just show up and kill a few dolls, and then they both get fake out deaths. They reappear in season 2, and I do prefer how they're utilized there despite them showing up less, but you know, this is a great segue. Maybe let's move on to season 2. Season 2 definitely goes a lot more off the rails. It immediately diverts and kills a majority of the dolls that were possessed in season 1. And even then, there's like a total of 5 dolls left, and one of the dolls shows up, kills himself, and says it was worth the sacrifice because there's still so many of him left. And he doesn't even achieve his goal of killing the trio when he makes his sacrifice. I get he was bragging about how many dolls were left, but you wouldn't really sacrifice one of 5 in order to prove a point, especially when you're not gonna achieve your goal. It just doesn't make sense. But yeah, season 2 immediately destroys season 1's cliffhanger, kills the Tiffany doll, kills the majority of the Chucky dolls. Although that one Chucky's sacrifice does lead to the trio being sent to like a Catholic reform school, which admittedly a cool looking location, it feels like they don't really do anything until the last 2 episodes, and then in the last episode they're immediately removed anyway. I mean, you have stuff like the few remaining dolls turning up at the school, but they don't really do anything. They get brainwashed and killed, and they revive and break out of their brainwashing when they need to. It's just random. The biggest missed opportunity of these dolls being the Colonel. He's portrayed as a doll who's been pulling the strings the entire time, even having kidnapped fake-out Death Andy. But the second he comes out of the shadows, Andy kills him off screen. Then you have Nadine, a redhead who was either an obvious Chucky ally or kill. She was just too nice. And you know, also the 4th friend of the trio, we can't really have that. So she had to die, like Junior in season 1. Then you have Chucky's therapist, the person who apparently made him who he is. Even though we got that story last season, how Chucky became a killer. Although they weirdly make it work, it's not really a retcon, it's more after he kills his mother, he gets sent to the Catholic school, and then this therapist turns out to be evil and wants to stamp out the little bit of innocence she sees in Chucky. This is different to the retcons horror icons are known for in recent years. This is adding to Chucky's story. They don't change it. Yeah, it's a bit annoying that there's this outside influence who claims to have made him who he is, but at the same time, those traits were there. She just encouraged them. The B-plot, once again, is Nika and Tiffany. Tiffany fell in love with Nika last season, but was too scared of Chucky, so she chopped off Nika's limbs, and has been keeping her hostage for a year. One part that confuses me, in the first episode where we pick back up with Nika and Tiffany, the Tiffany doll head appears in Tiffany's bed. That confused the hell out of me reading it. I thought that I'd written the wrong name, but then I remembered Tiffany doll, Tiffany human, there's 2 Tiffany's. Anyway, the season 1 finale was like set a year ago, and the Tiffany doll died on that night. yet it's a year later, and her head is still pouring out blood. I thought maybe this specific scene took place before the time skip, but then I remembered Nika says that she's been kept trapped in the house for a year, so it has to have been a year later. Then I also remembered Chucky was still able to bleed in Child's Play 3, but he was alive for all that time, so when he got punctured, that was just his blood. It's not like he bled that whole time. This is a dismembered head still bleeding over a year later, which I guess losing your head as a doll isn't really gonna kill you. I mean, God knows Chucky has done it a million times, but even then I don't think she'd bleed for a whole year. And even then she seems pretty dead because her head's not speaking. And somehow by the time Tiffany shows the head to Chucky in Nika's body, it has stopped bleeding, so it's really confusing on how long this head was bleeding for. Okay, so moving on from that rant, the therapist gave Lexi's sister a Belle doll, which of course people went crazy over and thought it was Tiffany inside the doll again. At this point, when I was watching season 2, I hadn't seen many Chucky projects and said to one of my Discord friends, "Oh, what if it's Chucky inside the wedding doll and not Tiffany? Wouldn't that be a funny twist?" He was straight up like, "No, it has to be an identical vessel. It has to be Tiffany inside there, not Chucky." Little did we know, my wild guess was gonna be right, and it was an identical vessel. Chucky just managed to change his entire face shape, body shape, and like everything with a little bit of makeup and a dress. Anyway, this Belle doll that appears in episode 1, gets a joke in episode 4, and then appears in the finale, ends up being the cliffhanger that sets up season 3. It seems a bit silly. Anyway, yeah, Chucky reveals himself to be in the doll when Tiffany's trying to possess it to get away from the cops and Nika. Oh yeah, I kinda skipped over a bunch of stuff again. I did say I was trying to keep it brief, even though I haven't really. The season 2 segment's gone on for like 5 minutes. It's probably time to move on anyway. Season 2 was overall pretty boring, but there's some great episodes like Going to the Chapel and Chucky Actually that are really fun. Like, those are standout episodes from the entire show to me. It just sucks that they fall under this umbrella that's considered bad. I don't really have a good segue here since season 2's cliffhanger isn't mentioned until episode 3 of season 3, so let's move on to season 3. Hey, are you enjoying the review so far? Well, if you're looking for videos that aren't anything like this, and are instead about adult animation, consider liking and subscribing. Maybe I'll make more Chucky videos soon. So, here we are, the main event, Season 3. My general thoughts, without delving too much into it, are the first 5 episodes were really good, episode 6 kind of drops the ball, but I still overall enjoyed it. And then the last 2 episodes are very different and feel removed from the Chucky franchise. Can't claim they didn't try anything new, but Jesus Christ, this is insane. So, episode 1 picks up with some little kid being scared and saying he's glad Joseph is here to protect him from the ghosts. Joseph being Chucky pretending to be this kid's dead brother reincarnated into a doll. Everyone around the kid, I should probably start calling the kid Henry instead of the kid. So yeah, everyone around Henry just thinks it's a cute coincidence the doll shares the name of his dead brother, and they all think it's really unhealthy, but they don't want to say anything so he doesn't go back to being depressed. I have got to stop leaving information out. The kid is the son of the president. The president is played by Devon Sawa. He's played like 3 other characters in the show, and ends up playing 2 more just in this season. But yeah, Chucky ends up killing Henry's bodyguard and everything in the White House starts to fall apart. Everyone thinks the bodyguard killed himself, but the autopsy shows there's no way he could have held the gun at that angle to shoot himself. We check back in on the trio and their old teacher who's adopted them. She's homeschooling them while they try to find Chucky. Season 2 set up that she knew about Chucky, and I thought for sure there was going to be more to her. She ends up being Chucky's 3rd kill in the White House, and they tease us with her reappearance like 3 times. She appears in a flashback episode, and then her ghost appears. It only shows the way she was killed though. And then they have to go to the spirit realm, and they kinda act like they're going to get to see someone special in the spirit realm, because they're like, oh, has everyone who's ever died ended up in the spirit realm? And they're like, only those with unfinished business, and it just feels like the biggest setup, and then she's not even there. Like, why have her claim to know about Chucky, but then have the season 3 premiere act like she's the only one who believes the trio? Like, the way they set it up almost seemed like she knew Chucky, but then instead they have the trio say, she's the only one who believes us. More like she trusts them over knowing that Chucky's actually alive like season 2 set up. I thought she was an obvious kill in the long run, but I thought we'd at least get to know about her first, like with Nadine. Speaking of the flashback episode, episode 3, we finally pick up on season 2's cliffhanger. Tiffany was not killed by Chucky, instead it just so happened Nika called the cops on Tiffany, so they burst in just in time to save her. Tiffany seems to have had enough and is telling everyone Chucky, the doll, is to blame. Of course, no one believes her. She starts to get annoying because a lot of her scenes consist of her screaming she wants her Voodoo for Dummies book. She does claim it's for religious purposes, which is funny the first couple times, but it's all she says. She ends up going to prison and all she really does in there is kill one person with voodoo and then kind of make other people her slaves to break her out. Other than one scene where she kind of forgives and encourages Chucky, a lot of her scenes are just nothing but reminding you that she's in prison and that they plan to execute her. So a lot of her scenes are just over the top and have funny, silly swears. Nika is also back. You probably wouldn't believe me because she gets like 4 minutes total screen time in the whole season. She has a cool chase scene with Chucky, testifies against Tiffany in court, then she watches Tiffany's lethal injection, and then tries to chase Tiffany as she escapes, which was another cool chase scene, but you know, she doesn't really do much. She does randomly show up for the cliffhanger, but still, it feels like she did nothing all season. They need to make her relevant again. But I think unless they do another movie, it's kinda guaranteed she's only gonna get 5 minutes of screen time again. It's so weird because she was set up as the new protagonist. She had 2 movies to herself, like in her movies. Andy was still there, but he had a lot less relevance. These were Nika's movies, and now Andy feels like he has more relevance going into this series than Nika ever has. And even then, he's not important to the series. Nika's just really faded away. I say that when Andy only appeared in a dream sequence this season, so Nika kinda was more relevant than him. Still weird, feels like Nika only exists nowadays to show how bad it could be for the other characters, which is weird because everyone loves Nika. But another ramble over with, the main trio kinda do nothing this season except for Lexi. Jake and Devin kinda just stand around while Lexi flirts with the president's son to get them into the White House. The president and his family are probably legitimately the best thing from this season. It's just weird because they don't really feel like they're in a Chucky project when they're on screen, except for maybe Henry. It's like they've taken a different show and just put it into Chucky. And by the time the first family do get involved with everything, it's kinda too far removed from what was going on in the first place. It doesn't really feel like Chucky anymore. It's like a ghost movie where they have a seance and everything. They do limit ghosts to the White House by saying it's the amount of kills that have happened there, which would have made sense if they started appearing after the chandelier fell, but you know, they were kind of there for ages, and they even said later in the season that they've always had paranormal problems there. Because, like, realistically, a lot of people also died at Nika's house. Who's to say that ghosts don't just randomly show up there now? Anyway, yeah, Chucky's going after the nukes, and then he dies and starts haunting the first family. It's, like, very far removed. After all that happens, Jake decides he needs to go to the spirit realm to convince the good side of Chucky to sacrifice himself to get rid of every Chucky soul. I mean, it felt kind of obvious that there would be no good side of Chucky to appeal to, but Jake full thinks this is the good Chucky, the brainwashed Chucky from season 2. Which Don Mancini did confirm the brainwashing was real, but it wore off. He killed Nadine. How would you go in there thinking he's still good? And even then, at the end of season 2, it felt like that Chucky was just pretending he was brainwashed. Like, yeah, it was real. But if you were Jake, you wouldn't know that because he was just acting like he was pretending. Jake does eventually find this good Chucky, and the whole time they're talking, he's pulling these obviously evil faces. But you know, Jake doesn't notice this because he's too busy crying, "No, you're good, I know it." Anyway, surprise, surprise, this good Chucky was never real and he was just distracting Jake so that Chucky Prime could possess Jake's body. But then he doesn't even really want Jake's body, he was just using this loophole or something to get back into a doll that wasn't ruined. Oh yeah, once again, I've left out crucial information. Chucky was involved in an exorcism and now he's got like Christian magic inside him, so he's rapidly aging and Dembala, or however you say it, Dumbala, has given up on him. And he put on like a show, killed many people as a ghost so that he would be allowed back into the grace of Dumbala. But you know, now he doesn't have a doll body, so that was his plan. Anyway, Chucky as Jake lasts like a total of 10 minutes and he does like one thing. He kills this medium guy, and he kills him because he sent Jake in after him. But like, Chucky said it was all part of his plan, so why would you be mad that he made your plan work? I get he's a serial killer and would probably just kill people for fun, but why do you make it sound like he's mad that his plan worked? Still annoying that these cool concepts last like a total of 5 seconds. Anyway, the season ends with the trio ending up in doll bodies with bad CGI overlaid on the faces. Nika finds them, but John Waters was lurking in the background, so it ends with Nika screaming and we have no idea what happened. The idea of the trio in dolls doesn't upset me, it's the bad CGI. I'm hoping that next season or movie they put more effort and budget into it and they have some throwaway line like, "So glad we got you out of those cheap doll bodies and now you're in these better looking ones." The season also ends with Chucky and Tiffany back in their doll bodies and they say they're going to find Gigi because they want to be a family again. Which hopefully they do go after Gigi because they were name dropped so many times in this season. Almost all of Nika's appearances had her say, "Oh, I got a call from Gigi, and they call me more than they call you." Like, it almost felt like Nika's character was more to set up Gigi than to be a character herself. Like, I feel like Nika said Gigi more times than she actually did anything. But yeah, I feel like what Season 3 set up does have potential, but those last 3 episodes definitely burnt some bridges, and they really need to try and be less goofy, especially if they want to hold people's attention. So yeah, Chucky Season 3, quite the mess, especially weird since it started out great. Like, the beginning felt like it rivaled Season 1, but those last 3 episodes felt worse than Season 2. I mean, a character who I kinda forgot to mention, Price, he basically covers up the murders in the White House until he can figure out what's going on. But by the end, he feels like a goofy villain who will just kill anyone to achieve his goal. But with everything going on, he seems to lose track of what his goal actually is, and I can't figure it out. Like, it felt like he was trying to cover up supernatural stuff and murders to protect the White House and government secrets. But you know, then he's murdering everyone himself and full tries to blow up the White House. With the amount of trouble he caused, it almost feels like he should be trying to nuke half the world like Chucky did. I mean, in the end, he's just trying to kill the president's family, and I don't get it. Hoping whatever comes next has potential and that it can hold on to that potential, because a lot of these seem to start out good and then fall off really quick. And I think with each installment, more and more people have been dropping the franchise, and with how Season 3 ended, I'm sure there's going to be a lot more. I mean, with Season 3, we're kind of just in the same place Season 2 ended, except Tiffany's safe, she doesn't have people chasing her. And I guess the trio are in dolls, but they don't really feel relevant anymore. Anyway, yeah, these have been my thoughts. Sorry I got caught up discussing Season 2 for like 5 minutes. But I guess if you have thoughts on any of the seasons or movies, you could comment what you thought. And if you like my content, maybe like and subscribe. And I guess I'll disappear until I figure out my next video topic, because I've been having trouble with that. Although, whenever I say that, I end up getting struck by lightning or something, and suddenly I know what video I want to make, and it comes out 2 days after the first video I upload. But I guess I'll see everyone eventually.